This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Stephen Colbert, a guy I talk about a lot on this channel. I talk about all these talking heads on late night television. They use comedy to deflect serious issues. They bring attention to these things to discredit it and mock it. We saw Stephen Colbert around the time of the hoax shooting at Pizzagate, Combat Ping Pong, come out and discredit the entire thing and make a mockery of it. His video, Pizzagate is an alt-right fever dream, is a 10-minute monologue he pretty much does, mocking fake news, hinting that he might be involved in it. Then at the end, pretty much saying for us to go F ourselves, people who look into this and think we're investigators when we're not, thinking we're creating some type of firestorm and we need to butt out, making light of child molestation and these pedo rings that generate billions of dollars that these elites fund, finance, and are involved in. And I'm going to show you the connection with Stephen Colbert and Pizzagate through his connection and affiliation with the Podestas, which shows you why he has gone out of his way to discredit Pizzagate, to mock it. And like I said, through mind control, when they bring attention to this stuff and they discredit it and they make a mockery of it, this is how they brainwash people so that when you bring this up to them, they laugh it off and think it's some lunatic conspiracy theory. He goes out of his way to talk about conspiracy theories, about how we're all cuckoo, about how we need more adults in this world, and people who investigate this stuff are children. Funny how the people investigating this stuff are trying to protect children from people like Stephen Colbert and the circles he runs in. Now, keep in mind, these people are put in these positions. Jimmy Kimmel is a Satanist, okay? He goes out of his way to mock Jesus Christ. Stephen Colbert is no different. I just talked about James Corden. He's another one of them. These late-night shows are important because they use political satire to push agendas, right? And that's why all of these guys are anti-Trump. There's a reason for it. There's a reason all of Hollywood is, because it's all part of the staged theatrics that is our political system. That is our country, the United States of America, because the entire thing is a circus and it's a stage circus. Now, Mr. Colbert, some people aren't familiar with the fact that he is related to Elizabeth Colbert Bush, who was running for Democratic nominee for Congress in South Carolina back in 2013. During this time period, Political Party Time hosted an event called An Evening with Stephen Colbert for Elizabeth Colbert Bush, hosted by Tony Podesta and John Podesta. You can see it right on the website. You can also read it in the Washington Examiner where it says John and Tony Podesta are two of the three people identified as host committee members on the fundraising invitation, which was obtained by the Washington Examiner for a lobbyist. So the Podestas helped raise money, and they were asking donors to contribute up to $10,000 to attend this event. And as I always say, just these people are gigantic hypocrites. The amount of money that they bring in. The contribution information for this event was $500, $1,000, $2,600, or $10,000 per person to attend this. And we talk about all the people starving in the world and how these quote-unquote liberals, whatever you want to call them, Hollywood and the politicians, they come out and they talk about, oh, we got to get our priorities straight and talking about this and talking about that. And people are just homeless. People are starving. And, you know, you're wasting money. What is the $10,000 contribution going towards? Okay? It's going towards nothing. It's a total waste of time and a waste of money. The article goes on to say that lobbyist-led fundraisers with liberal Democrats are common enough, but this one undercuts Colbert Bush's brand as a political outsider. Her website emphasizes that she has pragmatic policies, and the business experience to negotiate with political opponents. Elizabeth has decided that this dysfunctional display in the halls of Congress must end. She believes that this is our time, her website explains. That's the image she should be cultivating in her bid to carry a Republican district to defeat former Governor Mark Sanford, who resigned after the affair made in national news. Colbert Bush must rely on the ability to portray herself as a businesswoman and political outsider, and the potential ability to put together a well-funded campaign. Now, this is back from 2013, and people who did this research should be applauded for as people continue to dig into the connections of all the Hollywood elites, all the financial elites around the world and their connection to the Podestas, as well as to the Clinton foundations, as well as to James Alefantis. So here, where we have Stephen Colbert, who's supposed to play, a comedy host, who's supposed to do political satire at 11 o'clock at night every night during the week, and give an unbiased, comical approach to things, has ties not only to the Clintons, but to the Podestas, to Tony and John Podesta. Even some of the WikiLeaks that came out had Colbert mentioned in them. So why do you think Colbert went out of his way, not only to, I guess, protect himself in a sense, because he was mentioned in some regards in the WikiLeaks, so he had to protect himself, but he went out of his way to protect his buddies, the Podestas, who, along with himself, hosted a fundraiser for Elizabeth Colbert Bush. So the connection is there between these three. He acts like he doesn't even know who they are. I don't know the Podestas. I've heard of Mr. Podesta and his connection to Obama. They play the role. They play dumb, and people go, yeah, I mean, even if they know each other, what's the big deal? It's a big deal, especially when Colbert is going out of his way to call this fake news, that Pizzagate's fake news, pushing that agenda. And when Colbert tries to mock it and discredit it, he even mentions that he's in the WikiLeaks, but doesn't let the crowd know he's mentioned in at least 68 of the Podesta emails. 68. So don't think that these guys get these jobs based on, oh, he's really funny, and we're going to put him in this position of influence and power on late night every night. They put these people in these positions. They train them to use this satire, this sarcasm, because they know how it works in mind control. They know how they can flip things and deflect things and take serious topics and deflect it, and then the audience finds humor in it, and they don't even realize that they're laughing about some people being concerned about a pedo ring going on at Comet Ping Pong. But he makes fun of the name of the place. He goes, who would name a pizza place Comet Ping Pong? Right, everybody gets a laugh. They don't even realize they're laughing at people who are trying to expose something that pretty much is there, because James Alefantis exposed himself. If the people out there were aware of the posts that he was making on his Instagram account, hundreds of posts with children staring at men's rear ends, with pizza covering children's private parts, children eating pizza with suggestive comments, Alefantis with disgusting, disturbing comments about chicken lovers, and all these code words that the FBI uses to identify pedo rings. If the masses out there knew that, and they saw these pictures, they would probably say, hey, you know what? What's the big deal that people are asking for an investigation? But that's the reason that they had the fake shooting, right? That's the part of the reason they did that, because if people were continuing to get the word out and say, look at these pictures of Alefantis, don't you think it warrants an investigation here? It's a little creepy. What's the big deal? If he's innocent, then he's innocent. Then he shouldn't be afraid to have an investigation at his restaurant. But what they needed to do was have the fake shooting, so they could just immediately go, okay, this is it's all about the fake news and the fake shooting. It's not about the kids that are getting raped. It's not about Alefantis' posts and his Instagram posts. If you listen to any interview he's done, he never, ever answers anything. The only time he did is he said it was his godchild holding up thousands of dollars in euros. But when he went anywhere mainstream to talk about it and say, oh, poor me, I'm a victim of my pizza place, I'm a victim of these attacks from fake news, the masses out there hear that and they go, yeah, that's not fair. But they don't see the stuff. They don't see why, the George Soros donations that were made, Hillary Clinton donations that were made, the pictures of Obama playing ping pong with kids in the White House, how Alefantis had multiple visits to the White House. Because if the masses out there saw this stuff, and I know people go, well, it's not enough to, convict the guy. It's all kind of just circumstantial evidence. Well, in the real world, like I've said many times, if somebody posted this on Facebook or Twitter, the police, the FBI, somebody would show up at their house. We've seen people comment, make political statements online and get arrested for it. So if they wanted to, arrest people for being involved in these pedo rings and they really cared, then obviously they would look into it. But they're protecting Alefantis, and they don't want the masses out there to know of the pictures, to know of all this stuff, because Alefantis outed himself because he's cocky, because that's what these guys are. They're egomaniacs or sociopaths, and they know they can get away with this stuff, and they rub it in our faces. But that's why it's important for guys like Colbert to go out and make a mockery of it, even though he has ties and connections to the Podestas who helped raise, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of dollars for his sister so she could run for office. Must be a coincidence, right? Must be a coincidence that he's watching their back and protecting them. Of course it's not. Because these guys, you look at them and people go, well, they wouldn't be involved because he's funny. He's a funny man. Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert would never be involved. They're just comedians. They play the role of a comedian. They tell you what's funny and what's not. Okay? That's why they have laugh boxes still. You know why they have laugh boxes? To influence you to laugh at things. That's why they're there. That's why sitcoms have a laugh box. It's mind control. You hear it, you hear the laughter, and then people start to, maybe it was funny. They don't even know what they're doing. So here's Colbert, folks. Here he is, and you wonder why he went out of his way to protect the Pizzagate scandal. That's because he's connected to it. Mentioned 68 times in the Podesta emails, and also connected to the Podestas directly, hosting an event with them. So he knows Tony and John Podesta. But these guys will continue to use satire, sarcasm, and deflect serious issues like this, which is amazing that nobody was, sickened or offended by the fact that they're talking about potential pedophile rings and making a joke of it, saying these people are crazy conspiracy theorists. We're not talking about the Sasquatch. We're not talking about UFO spotting conspiracy theorists. This isn't a conspiracy theory. They're the ones who put the information out there. And unfortunately, the FBI, of course, obviously so, isn't doing their job. And others are. So I applaud people who are continuing to look into this. And I tell people out there who are listening, watch these shows and get out of an alpha state and pay attention to why they're doing it, why they're deflecting. Because that's why when you ask me questions and you say, hey, why can't my parents wake up or my friends wake up? Because they're using all of these people through mind control, with humor, with all of this stuff, with the fake news that is the news on TV. So until people start understanding how mind control works, they're going to continue to get sucked back into this. And the elites are going to play with their minds and their emotions, and that's why guys like Colbert are there. They're positioned there strategically, deliberately. They all have ties and connections, not only to these political higher-ups, but to the Hollywood higher-ups, to all these guys. They're not just pawns. They're still connected to them. Are they pawns necessarily? Yeah, they're doing their bidding, but they're connected to them. They put them in these positions because they trust them to do what they ask them to do. They trust them not to go rogue. They trust Stephen Colbert that he's going to do what he says he's going to do. And they probably have incriminating evidence on him connected to this stuff, so he knows he has to go along with it. Because that's usually how they operate. They blackmail people. Hey, if you ever return, well, we have this on you, right? Remember this day when you did this? Yeah, we have this on you. We could just run it on NBC, CBS, and ABC and blackmail you. These guys all are working together. So don't fall for it. Don't fall for the cutesy humor they try to pull. It's all lies. It's all BS. It's all deliberately done. And Colbert has connections to the Podestas, so it's not a surprise that he would go out of his way to talk about Pizzagate and make a mockery of it. And I'm sure he'll continue to do it in the future. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.